All right, today we're going to get into something that is absolutely crucial for any business to survive: cost. And look, mastering this stuff isn't just for the finance nerds. It's really the key to making smart decisions, the kind of decisions that can literally make or break a company.
I mean, think about it for a second. We've all seen it, right? That awesome local restaurant or that super buzzy startup that suddenly just disappears. They had tons of customers, the place was always packed, so what on earth went wrong? Well, the answer is usually hiding in plain sight.
That's the one. You can be the most popular game in town, but if you don't truly understand what it costs you to open your doors, to make your product, or to deliver your service, you could be losing money on every single sale you make. Profit isn't just about the money coming in, it's about what's left after all your costs go out.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to go on a little journey. First, we'll cover the absolute basics. What even is costing? Then we'll look at picking the right tool for the right job. After that, we'll see how you use all this data to actually manage your business. And we'll wrap up with the philosophy of lean, the ultimate goal of just eliminating waste altogether.
Okay, let's dive right in. Our first stop is just getting a handle on the fundamentals. And I want you to think of costing less like boring accounting and more like a set of high-powered X-ray goggles that let you see the real inner workings of your business with perfect clarity.
At its heart, costing is really just the system you use to figure out where your money is actually going. It's about systematically tracking every single expense, from the raw materials you buy to the light bulbs in the office, and then connecting that expense directly to what you sell.
And trust me, this is not just some academic exercise. This stuff drives the most important decisions you can make. It helps you set a price that actually makes you money, it helps you spot where you're being wasteful, and it even helps you decide if it's cheaper to make something yourself or just buy it from a supplier. It gives you the cold, hard data to answer all these big questions.
So how do we actually get to that final number? Well, the formula looks a little scary, but it's pretty straightforward. You start with what's called your prime cost. That's all the stuff directly tied to making one thing, like the wood for a chair and the person's time to build it. Then you add in all the overheads, rent, marketing, salaries, everything else it takes to keep the lights on, and boom, that's your total cost.
Let's put some numbers on it. Say a tech firm is building some custom software for a client. Okay, so they spend $5 grand on software licenses and $20 grand on what they pay their developers for that specific project. Then they figure out that this project's share of the office rent and utilities is about $2 grand. You add it all up, the total cost for that one project is $27,000. Without knowing that number, any price they quote is just a total shot in the dark.
Okay, so now we know what costing is. But here's the thing, you can't just use a one-size-fits-all approach. Different businesses are, well, different. You need to pick the right tool from the toolbox for your specific situation.
And there are a few main tools in the kit. If you're building something unique, like that custom software, you'll use something called job costing. If you're churning out thousands of identical things, like in a chemical refinery, you use process costing. For massive, long-term projects like building a bridge, that's contract costing. And for things you can't touch, like a bus ride, that's service costing. Each tool is built for a specific job.
Let's just zoom in on the two you'll probably see most often. The key difference here is really simple. With job costing, you're tracking every single penny spent on one specific, unique project. But with process costing, you're making so much identical stuff that it's easier to just find the total cost and average it out over all the thousands of units you made.
Okay, let's make this real. Imagine our chemical refinery. They put 1,000 gallons of stuff into the big vat at the start of the process. Now, they know from experience that about 10% or 100 gallons is going to evaporate. That's totally normal. So they expect to get 900 gallons of finished product out the other end. But at the end of the day, they only have 850. So where'd the other 50 gallons go?
And that, my friends, is what we call an abnormal loss. It's an unexpected problem. Maybe a pipe leaked or a machine was calibrated wrong. And this is why process costing is so powerful. It doesn't just tell us we're short 50 gallons. It lets us calculate the exact dollar value of that loss. Now, management has a specific, quantified problem that they have to go investigate. That is the power of using the right tool. So we've measured our costs. Awesome. But the next level, the really exciting part, is using that data to actively manage your business and make way smarter decisions. This is where costing stops being about accounting and starts being a strategic weapon. All right, here is a classic dilemma. A potential client wants to place a huge, one-time order with you. The catch? They're only willing to pay $35 per unit. You look at your books and you see that your total cost after you factor in everything is $40 per unit.
Your gut says, no way, why would I sell something for a loss, right?
But hold on. Before you say no, you need to understand this killer concept called contribution. It's the key idea behind a technique called marginal costing. Contribution is simply what's left over from the sales price after you cover your variable costs, so just the costs that change with each unit, like the raw materials.
So let's run the numbers. Let's say the variable cost for your product, just the materials and direct labor, is only $30. The client is offering $35. So if you take the sales price of $35 and subtract the variable cost of $30, you're left with a positive contribution of $5 for every single unit you sell. So what's the decision? You say yes, you take that order. Why on earth would you do that? Because that $5 of contribution from each and every unit goes directly toward paying your fixed costs, the rent, the salaries, all the bills you have to pay anyway, no matter what. So even though the price is below your total cost, this one-time order is pure extra profit for your bottom line. Okay, we've gone from measuring to managing. Now for the final stage of our journey. This is about adopting a whole new philosophy. It's about moving beyond just controlling costs and instead redesigning your entire system to stop waste from happening in the first place.
And this is the soul of the lean system. It's a philosophy that started in manufacturing, but honestly, it applies everywhere. The whole goal is to relentlessly hunt down and eliminate muda. That's the Japanese word for waste in all its forms. Waiting time, too much inventory, people walking around unnecessarily, you name it.
One of the most practical tools in the Lean toolbox is called the 5S method. It's a simple but incredibly powerful way to organize any workspace. First, you sort through everything and get rid of junk you don't need. Then you set what's left in an orderly, logical place. You shine the area and keep it clean. Then you standardize that whole process so it's always done the same way. And finally, you sustain the discipline. It's all about creating an environment where inefficiency has nowhere to hide.
Now, Lean basically gives you two different ways to get better. On one hand, you have Kaizen. Think of this as evolution, making small, continuous improvements every single day, with everyone involved. On the other hand, you've got BPR, or Business Process Reengineering. This is revolution, wiping the slate clean and radically redesigning a whole process from scratch.
And you really can't talk about Lean without talking about just-in-time, or JIT. The old way of doing things was a push system. You just make a ton of stuff based on a sales forecast and push it into a warehouse, which costs a fortune. JIT is a pull system. Nothing gets made until a customer actually places an order. That order pulls materials through the system exactly when they're needed, which dramatically slashes all that wasteful cost tied up in inventory.
So, what we've seen is that understanding cost is way more than just numbers on a page. It's about having visibility, it's about strategy, and it's about a whole philosophy of always getting better. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. From the projects you take on at work to how you manage your own time, every single decision you make has a cost. The real question is, do you know what it is?